Jack. White Jack. What? All right. Feeling good. Yo, yo, yo. Hello there, beautiful people. We are back again to finish up this logical analysis. Now, we are on part 2, which I was not sure I was going to do. But I was fairly entertained with this Trump deportation debate. Not sure how much we actually even got left here. But I'm going to finish it up. I do want it to be quick. So, we're going to hope we can finish this up as fast as possible. Maybe I can get some more laughs in. Because, if I'm not mistaken, where we left off here was, I think Andrew was trying to get this guy in the beginning to, give him, like, his definitions for, what is harm and what is good. And then when he got to asking him, like, well, what would be good? The guy was like, well, I don't think there's much good. So I don't know what good is. And I'm sure you can understand just by unpacking that that we've gotten into some really silly territory here. So follow, share, subscribe, yada yada blah blah. If you like the content. But yeah, we're gonna dig into this debate. Give me 1 second here. Make sure our audio is good. See. All right.
Would be good versus bad. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back a little bit
because I don't run Congress.
Okay, well then I guess we can't give illegal Social Security numbers then because you don't run Congress.
No, I can't.
No, applied it to your definition of bad. That wasn't fair.
I didn't say economically it's going to hurt us.
So here's the thing.
All right.
I'm willing to give you.
I think if we can wrap up this guy's argument, he basically was saying that he thinks it's bad if we are deliberately hurting ourselves economically. I think that's a definition of harm he gave. And because he said it's doing more harm than good, I mean, harm basically has to substitute for bad there. So Andrew was trying to kind of get his idea of what that was, and he said it's deliberately hurting our economy. So I think we're at the point of the discussion where Andrew's kind of pegged him on the idea that, simply because something is like, I guess you can say, having a known negative effect, quote unquote, on our economy, then it's bad. Because if you're saying that it's doing more harm than good, and that's what you consider to be harm, then obviously good would be, the opposite of that. So we're gonna see how this plays out from here.
The social arguments for why I think that this would be good versus bad. I'm happy to do that, but I would like a concession from you first. That when I bring up by your own definitions what these things mean, and we could have easily just, if you would have just been a modicum good faith and we could have got the definitions out of the way, we could have got into more of the meat like we were doing right then with Social Security.
Or we could just do that.
Yeah, so but we were just doing that with Social Security and cried foul and said when I applied it
Yeah.
to your definition of bad, that wasn't fair.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well then why can't I apply it to your
I said
definition of bad?
no. What I said is, it seems like you're setting up a scenario where things are either good or bad, and you
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, and I think
It's like he's running away from his own claim. I'm gonna show you guys just so we're clear. Like the debate prompt is Trump deportations do more harm than good. Good is a substitute for bad in that context. So I mean, yeah, it's either good or bad, bro. It's a per your own claim. You know, it can do good and bad, but you are arguing that it's doing more bad or harm.
that sometimes things are bad and you deal with it. Sometimes bad things happen and you just
But
kind
you
of have
also
to fucking deal with it.
said
And
that they
doesn't-
sh-
and I think that
Mhm.
sometimes what we get stuck with in these debates is we never talk
the
about
fuck?
any sort of solution because we're so goddamn serious about proving like our worldview and proving that the other person's worldview is somehow flawed. So we never actually
All right, so sure, this is, I guess you could say this is good rhetoric, but we're already like, my guy makes a claim and he's upset that he has to defend the claim. He's like, well, we're not talking about solutions and yada, yada, blah, blah. Yo, we have to establish that there is a problem first before we start talking about solutions. And then solutions are outside of the scope of the debate. Like the debate is about your claim. Deportations do more harm than good. You clearly don't agree on that. So once you get to a point where you can agree on whether they do more harm or more good, then you can start talking about everything else, solutions, all the other stuff. But if it's doing more good, there's no solutions to talk about. So if you lose a debate and you can't defend your claim, there's no point in talking about any solutions or whatever, because there's not a problem. There's a perceived problem from your worldview. This is why the debate has to happen the way it's happening. And he's complaining about that. Like I don't think he understands how a debate works and proving your own claim should play out. Like you have the burden of proof here, guy.
get to discuss what I'm here to discuss, which is what's the most sensible way to deal with the fact that we've got a lot of illegal immigrants here, and there seems to be a divide in this country on how to handle it.
Okay, we can move right into that then
This is
next.
so
I'll even
silly.
humor you on this. I just want
Thank
to
you.
point out as you say this that you said that negative outcomes should be avoided when we can, and then said there's things you just can't do anything about, which are bad.
Yeah.
However, I just gave you an example of a negative outcome which could be avoided. You just said it's not possible because you're not in charge of Congress. I think that that's fucking idiotic. But I'm happy to move on to the next point of this, which is what can we do about this?
Andrew's right there.
What can we do that's the most sensible? Well, okay, here's what we can do that's the most sensible. We can mobilize the National Guard, put them on the border with orders to shoot to kill, and we can deport every immigrant who's here. That would not only save us a small fortune in the cost of drugs coming across the border, human trafficking costs, and what we have to deal with the Department of Justice and all of these fronts, simply
Jeff,
do
but you
not
have
have
numbers to back that up? 'Cause
people who are
do you
here.
have any
Yes,
numbers on
in
that?
fact, I'm going to give you one of the most comprehensive studies. 1 second, which will point out the human
know
trafficking
this guy.
epidemic, which comes with.
Ain't no way this guy is asking for evidence now. We need evidence of his claims. But I mean, it's fair for him to ask Andrew of like evidence for his numbers. But I mean, I don't think he pulled up anything himself. He just kind of cited some stuff, whatever. I guess if that's enough for this debate to count as evidence, then it's cool on either side. But I don't know if anybody's gonna pull up like their screen and whatever, something else for us to see and actually quote something. Cause like just saying like, oh well, this organization found that this number of yada yada is like, I mean, sure, but how can we confirm that? Like you got to kind of put it in front of our faces. Or at least I
open
prefer when they do
borders.
that.
I
Hang on
don't.
a
I'm not
second.
supporting open borders. What are we debating here?
Well,
They're debating mass deportations. I don't
Yeah,
support
mass-
open borders.
yeah, mass deportations. Now, how is it that these people get here?
Most of them on visa overstays.
Not from south of the border.
That's not
right?
true.
Certainly, it's like 90% of people that are here on almost everybody that we're picking up that's at work. They've been here for 15, 20 years. And most
From
of them
visas?
you can come here on vacation and you can just stay. Most people don't
See-
sneak across the border. Most people come
Now, does he have evidence for that claim? Like, that's what I mean. Like, does he even have any evidence for that?
across legally and stay.
Okay, so then it sounds like one possible way and solution that we can do to handle this is make sure that if you don't leave on your visa, that we have a system in place to come collect you quickly, then bar you from the nation for life.
I agree with that. I think we should do that.
Okay, yeah, I agree. So then, as far as the solution comes, what we should do is bar you from life. You overstay on a visa. We have a system in place to come collect you very quickly if you do overstay on the visa. What's your objection to us deploying the United States military to the border to make sure that there's no illegal border crossings there with drugs
I don't
and
have an
human
objection
trafficking?
to that. I have no objection to that.
Okay, so then it sounds like the
Okay.
best thing that we can possibly do is remove the illegal immigrants who are here and also
That's
make
where we
it
disagree. That's the part
Oh.
we disagree on.
Okay, so let's just say for a second that I was willing to have a
He
compromise.
disagrees on
with you.
removing the immigrant.
Every illegal immigrant who's here will grant them amnesty and give them all a social security number. However, we are also going to deploy the United States military to the border. They're not going to allow any more illegal crossings. They'll have literal orders that these are invaders, right? And to repel them as an invasionary force, and that anybody who comes in and overstays their visa is banned for life, and that we have a new federal agency which goes and collects them as quickly as fucking possible to remove them. Would you agree to
a
that
new
compromise?
federal agency?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well then,
I wouldn't agree to that. Just personally, like, we're creating a new federal agency for this. I'm fine using one that we already have, but I'm generally not in favor of creating a new federal agency to do things that existing agencies are supposed to be doing already. Just saying.
what are we arguing here?
The mass deportations of the people that
Uh-huh.
are here, the millions of people that are here already. The cost alone to
Yeah.
deport these people is near $1 trillion. And
So
when I'm looking at these people that they're going and that they're rounding up, these people are doing no harm. These are people who are their only crime. Like 75% of the people from LA
They're doing no
they have rounded up. 75% of them have committed exactly one crime,
So
and
what?
that crime is being here illegally.
Yeah, so what?
I think that the cost of doing that doesn't make any fucking sense, especially when we
What's the So if if he's admitting that they've committed one crime, that crime being, crossing illegally, coming here illegally, what's the sentence for that crime? Like what should happen to them when they break the law? Even if it's just that one law. So we just be like, "Oh, well, fuck it." There's like no point in the law then at that point. Then you're saying you're not for open borders, but like, I mean, you're almost effectively saying that if you're saying that they should basically just not have anything happen to them when they come in and break a law by even coming in the way that they do.
we have this will permanently close some businesses. This will devastate local economies, and it will take a very long time to get back into those local economies and rebuild them. It's not like you remove them and all these job seekers come in and fill those jobs. Economically, it makes no sense. We're going to lose a bunch of tax revenue, and it's going to cost us like $1 trillion plus all the things that you want to do.
Economically, it makes no sense to deport illegal immigrants. And like, keep in mind, like his argument, this is what we covered yesterday in the first part. His argument is mostly like, oh, well, we need that cheap labor. And that's not, it's kind of a straw man, but it's not really a straw man. That's basically what he argued. Like, he's like, oh, we're gonna lose tax money. We're gonna lose workers that we already know are not being paid, like, normal wages. And that's his whole economic argument for why we shouldn't get rid of illegal immigrants, which is just kind of crazy to me. Like I'm like, it's very honest, so I can't really be mad at him for that. As dishonest as he was about everything else, he's honest about that at least. But it's just really funny.
Do as far as securing our
That we
southern
want to
border,
do.
we want to do, sure, yeah.
Mhm.
Everything that we would do to secure our southern border, it's going to be incredibly expensive. I see no return on that investment. It makes absolutely fiscally no sense to remove people willing to work who are causing harm to nobody. Let them stay.
Do you agree with me that you should speak the language of the nation if you
No.
want? You don't agree
Sorry.
with that?
You maybe finish it. Maybe there was was there a qualifier at the end of that? I interrupted.
I don't even think we need to go any further than that. Then, if you don't think that
You
you
don't even
should
think you have to speak English.
speak the language of the nation
He
before
doesn't
we
even
give you
think they should have to
amnesty.
learn English, I guess.
No, but I do think that you're going to be disadvantaged.
Yeah, but who else is disadvantaged by that?
By not people not speaking the language.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe somebody who thinks they should get the job just because they speak English.
Well, how about hospitals?
What?
How about schools? How about places like this where people don't speak the language and
For-
so additional resources need to
Is
be
there-
allocated to them so that they do speak the language?
I don't know.
Is there any person who thinks they should get a job just off the fact that they speak English? Should you be prioritized over other people? It probably that don't speak English. Sure, yeah. I mean, can't really communicate. But it's like when he said that, it's just like I feel like he's purposely trying to ignore what Andrew is getting at here. He's getting at the fact that it's gonna disadvantage people in the country. The more people that are coming in that don't speak their language. Like, yeah, you should try to learn the language of the country you're moving to. Like if I moved to Japan one day, which I would like to at some point, maybe get a little residence there. I'm gonna learn to speak the language. Like I'm not gonna just walk up in their country and just be speaking English all the time. It's not that they know English. A lot of them do. They learn English. It's still not like fair for me to just come in and just expect everybody to fucking capitulate to me because I can only speak English. Like you gotta give a little. You gotta put in a little effort. I think at the bare minimum, you owe the country that you're moving into that.
That they're
Normally-
disadvantaged. I don't know that that's being disadvantaged, right?
Well, wouldn't
We
that
might
be,
have to. We might.
wouldn't
have
that
to
be a
spend more in
disadvantage to our
resources.
native-born people to have to outsource this into now special categorizations just to get these people up and running with basic words in English?
Yeah.
No, I don't see how that
No?
disadvantages anybody.
We have to go out of our way to accommodate them. How is that not disadvantaging us when we could just, focus on what we're doing?
So you don't think that schools spending additional cash and resources with ELS is disadvantageous to the native-born people there who could be collecting those resources?
Well, I think we're going to be collecting those tax. We're going to be collecting new taxes anyways. I think maybe if
Well,
local.
now
I think
schools
that,
are
like,
that's
I've seen-
assessed by
All right, wait. Hold on. If we're supposedly like collecting on new taxes, just because we're getting a little bit more money, like it's basically just completely offsetting. It's not even completely offsetting it, but like at most it would be offsetting it. And it's like, okay, well, any benefit we would be getting is going to be offset by the fact that we are spending money on all these other things to accommodate them. Whereas like if we were just going to be getting the extra money, then that would be a net positive. So I guess, sure, it's neutral, but it could very easily be negative. Like if we're not getting that much and we're spending more on accommodating them than we're actually getting from them in like, tax dollars, then it's by his definition, it's a harm, right? Because it's technically hurting us economically.
property
Like
tax.
Per his
I've
definition.
seen proposals where people part of like the amnesty is that they have a remittance fee. Maybe it's a 1% tax. I'm actually okay with that too. If there are local costs that are going to be applied to the local economy, I think local communities should be able to assess that tax.
Yeah, so anyway, back to the ELS thing. How could it be possible that your property tax assessment, which is going towards schools along with generous federal grants, which are going to schools, how is it possible that they'll be spending less resources by not hiring ELS specific educators to train English first language to these other people instead of utilizing those resources on the locality of the natives who are there, who are paying through their local property taxes for the education of their children?
I didn't say they wouldn't pay more tax. I said nobody would be disadvantaged.
How would that not be disadvantageous to the people paying more taxes?
Because, like I just said, you're adding people into the pool of taxpayers, and if you want to pass that cost,
Not property tax.
and
Not property tax.
they pay property tax all the time. And
they only pay property tax if they own property. Can you tell me how many of these people?
Yeah, like how many fucking illegal immigrants own property? Like, come the fuck on now, my guy.
I just said
own
as
property?
tenants. I just said as tenants.
Oh, as tenants they pay property. No, as
They're
tenants they
paying
don't pay
property
property
taxes.
They
tax.
indirectly
pay
pay
rent.
tax.
No, they don't indirectly pay it. No.
Yes, they do.
No, it's directly assessed from the owner.
Listen, I don't know a
Yes,
single
I'm a landholder. Yes,
okay,
that's
I don't
correct.
know. So am I. I don't know a single landlord that doesn't factor in property taxes when they charge rent.
Okay, so wait a second. So who's paying the?
I'm pretty sure that's appeal to ignorance. I don't know any landlords that do that. Does that mean that they don't? Just like,
The property tax.
it's not an argument.
I said indirectly. Indirectly,
so
they're paying
then-
property taxes.
So then they're
It's
not paying
coming-
property taxes.
Well, the landlord isn't being disadvantaged.
Yeah, he's quite literally saying they're not paying property taxes. And the thing is, right, even if they're quote unquote indirectly paying property taxes, they're still not paying the property tax. And whoever owns the property would be paying it anyway. So they're just making some of their money back. We're not getting more property taxes from them. In order to get more property taxes from them, they would have to like own property and be paying a property tax that wouldn't have already been being paid by someone else. Otherwise, it's just property tax that would have already been paid. And they're helping offset the cost for whoever owns the property if they're paying indirectly.
And she's already paying that money into the community.
No, the landlord may not have as high a property tax assessment if they didn't have to spend more on localized school for things like language assessment, right?
Yeah, taxes go up to pay for education. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so taxes. So what you're saying here then is that the net drain from people who don't even speak the language of the nation, there's going to be a net drain on landholders because their property,
I just said they could pay a 1% tax.
Their property taxes would necessarily go up, even if you had a 1% remittance fee. Can you show me the math on how that would offset the local property taxes?
I said a 1% tax or a remittance fee.
But the remittances are assuming that these monies are going to go back to Mexico, right?
What?
The remittances are assuming that this money is going to go elsewhere to a different nation?
No, I don't know if it assumes that.
Then how do you get remittances?
Maybe I'm using the word remittances incorrectly.
I mean,
I think you
are.
are.
You probably are.
I might be. Am I using?
How
the
do you
wrong word?
how do you get a remittance?
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I am using the word.
Yes, you're using the word
sorry.
wrong.
Sorry.
It's semantics, you know.
Wow, he caught himself. Well, at least he's being honest right now.
Those fucking semantics.
Yeah, what I meant is they'll pay a penalty.
A penalty.
Yeah, for being here illegally when they, as part of their citizenship.
So they get
pay a
an
penalty.
increase of 1% in their taxes.
or a one-time lump.
Which
fee,
kind
however
of
you wanna do it.
taxes?
I think you would have to probably
Assess the income tax.
No, I think you would have to. I think that you would have to pay 1% tax base. Yeah, I guess on the income tax. Yeah, sure.
It would just be on the income. So that again doesn't solve our issue with property holders
Yeah,
and
it
their
doesn't-
taxes going
that
up.
doesn't
does
apply
it?
to
Why
property
not?
tax.
Well, because property holders paying a property tax on top of their income tax.
They're
Yeah.
already paying that tax that goes into schools.
Yes, but the problem that you have here is that they would be paying less of that tax, which goes to schools, if they weren't having more of their resources
don't-
allocated to non-English speaking students.
I don't think
right?
I don't think necessarily the taxes would go up.
Okay, can you demonstrate it?
I mean, this is probably the best response he could have had, but yeah, he has to also demonstrate it.
Yeah, they're already paying for these like the children that are in school. The property taxes are already paying for them. So why would it go
No.
up?
Do you understand that if it is the case that you have 30 people in a community and your taxes are assessed for that via property taxes, and there's some sort of levy which is passed, what would be on the ballot would be for those 30 people, those 30 families, and they would give an assessment based on that. If it is the case that now you increase the amount of, let's say, non-English speaking children who are
We're not
inside,
increasing that number. Why would we increase that number?
so you're saying
Yeah, what do you? Did he forget what they were talking about?
that right now these non-English speaking students are going to these schools?
Yes. And I
Oh,
factored
great.
that into my numbers earlier.
Well, that's perfect. So
So
then
the
if we got
properties,
rid,
so if they're paying taxes,
so if we got rid,
wouldn't that mean that the landowners or the landlords that some of that would be offset? Potentially, some of these people who are illegally here illegally could purchase properties and they could pay property tax.
So
too?
wait, so what you're saying is, to get this right, that right this second, property owners are subsidizing illegal children so that they can learn the language of the nation. And do you
Correct.
think that that's okay because they're already paying it? So if you just gave
Yeah.
these students somehow a social security number rather than deporting them, that somehow is going to decrease property taxes?
No, it changes nothing. I
Oh,
mean,
I
it
see.
stays exactly the
It stays exactly the same. Once you essentially make them citizens, it stays exactly the same. Taxes don't go up. I mean that's a cool idea, I guess in theory. But I mean, the more resources you need, typically the higher the taxes end up. No, I mean like this is America, so you could technically have a levy where the people vote against it and it doesn't increase. But I don't think every area works like that necessarily.
same.
No, it would necessarily, if you deported them, go down, right? Because now there's less students there to support.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, then, so then,
Are you going to pay teachers less?
So I just want to make sure.
I just know at least where I live. I'm not sure necessarily how all of it works. But you know, they typically put the tax levy on a ballot and you vote for whether you want the increase or not. And I guess if you vote no, it doesn't go up and they just got to work with what they got already. Now, if there's some other way that they could increase it without having the people vote on it, then maybe it's just like, you know, they can do whatever the fuck they want and they can justify it because they have more people. I do think like it depends though. Cuz I mean, he's technically right. It doesn't necessarily have to go up. It's just that I mean, even in terms of voting, like a lot of people are gonna like once, especially the people who want it to go up, explain why they want it to go up. Some people are probably gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I'll vote for that. We got more people. Oh yeah, let's vote for that. Oh yeah, we want the schools to have this stuff available to them. This is what they plan on doing with the money. Oh sure, I'll vote for it." So I mean, even if it's a voting thing, like I mean, it's fairly likely people vote for the levy. Not everybody votes against the levy. And if there's any other way that they could just do it without having people vote on it, then it's definitely gonna happen. Because I mean, they always want more money. Let's be honest. Like, are they gonna turn? Is the government gonna turn down more money from the citizens? Like, are we serious here?
Sure
Wait,
that
why
I
would
got
it go
this
down?
right.
Wait, why would it go down
Because
necessarily?
because you're paid inside of schools by the seats. That's how you're paid. So you have X. Why do you think they take roll call in a school? Johnny here. That's dollars, right? Timmy here. That's dollars. They're paid by the number of students who are in seats. So by your argument of saying, again, bad, deliberately hurting economy, and that should be avoided, when it will have a negative outcome. Negative outcomes are to be avoided when we can. This sounds like a negative outcome, which we can quickly avoid by simply deporting non-English speaking students along with their parents if they're here illegally. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that outweighs the other economic benefits of keeping them here.
I'm not a huge
Oh,
fan of
the
this
other
argument.
economic benefits.
Yeah.
So what economic
That's
benefits?
why I said, like, you want to do this about principles, but I'm
Yeah.
just looking at in totality. I've already factored these numbers in. I did that in my opening statement. I already said that the cities that are a net negative when it comes to immigration, most of that comes from educating these children already. That's already factored into my numbers.
So it's already a negative, and can we avoid that negative?
Yeah, but then we lose out on revenue, and
I
then that negative becomes larger.
And if I grant this, that there are cases in which this revenue is going to be saved by the taxpayer, especially the property holder, even if I were to grant that in some ways we may lose some revenue from a second-class citizenry that you want to keep here desperately, would you say that when you're talking about social issues,
Like some
that
second class? What do you mean by that?
they are
class?
second class, yeah.
I know. What do you mean by that? I'm not trying
I
to be
mean,
offended.
they're completely disenfranchised from the nation, used only for the exploitative labor of massive farms, usually.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to this though, would you say
Which
that
he's in
those
favor of.
social offsets, when we look at the totality of the good of the nation, that you need to look at both economic and social ramifications inside of the nation for any policy which you pass?
Yeah.
I think that's I think it could be important. Sure.
Yeah. So when you factor in.
But keep in mind, his entire argument is basically economic. I think that the one part of his argument that was social was we're breaking up families. But if I recall, when Andrew addressed him saying the whole breaking up families thing earlier, he was like, I think he kind of backed off on that. He was like, that wasn't really my argument. And I was like, okay.
In the GDP, if I grant the GDP, can you tell me what the positive social ramifications are?
Of amnesty?
Yes.
Yeah, I think more social cohesion.
How?
I think that specific.
More so amnesty for immigrants means more social cohesion. You have to walk me through that one.
Specifically here in, like, I live in a border state. One of the problems we have, especially in neighborhoods that get overrun by gangs, is that you have a bunch of people unwilling to call the police, unwilling to report crimes because either they or somebody they love's status is in jeopardy, or even now there's people who don't want to because they think that even if they do have legal status, they may be deported. I don't know if you know much about the history of
Arizona. I just want to make sure I got this right.
So amnesty so that illegals aren't as nervous about being illegals, and they'll feel comfortable to call the police. I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, what is the fucking point of the law? Like, what is the point of even having immigration laws if people can break them? And when they come in here, we're like, oh no, let them stay. They're afraid to call the police because they're illegal immigrants because they've broken the law. But we should, like, accommodate them anyway and try to make sure they're not nervous and, what is the point of the law? Like, what is the point of even having the borders then at that point? Like, you see what I'm saying? He says he's not open borders, but it's like the arguments he's making is like, these are the consequences of not doing things the right way. These are the consequences of breaking the law, and not having an open border. When you don't have open borders, you have a particular system for how people can get in here because not everybody can get in here. And the people that bypass that system are going to have to be disciplined in some way or have some kind of consequences. Otherwise, we might as well just have open borders. Like, what's the point of the law if you're not going to enforce it?
And tell me if my steel man's incorrect. It makes sense to me logically. If you're here illegally, you don't want to call and report a crime because then your own status could be in question, and then you could get shipped out of the very country you're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it would create more positive social cohesion if we just granted the citizenship, and then therefore those people wouldn't mind reporting the said crimes, right?
Sure, in some cases.
Yeah. isn't that also the case if we deported them? If we deported those people, wouldn't it also be the case that we would have a net income or a net increase to social cohesion? We also would be eliminating this problem
Yes.
of people who aren't citizens reporting crimes. Yeah.
No, I think that's
No, he's correct. Like if you have people that are in the country that are afraid to report crimes and to call the police and do all this stuff, and this is a problem with social cohesion, then getting rid of those people would solve the problem even better. Because even if you make them citizens and you grant them amnesty and all this, and now they're more willing to, doesn't guarantee that they will. But you won't have to worry about the problem if you just get rid of them. So his answer is actually the actual solution to the problem. Like that would actually solve the problem. That would just get rid of the problem entirely. Like we just got rid of all those people theoretically. That would eliminate the problem. You wouldn't have that particular problem anymore because there would be nobody here to worry about that. There wouldn't be illegals here to be worried about, calling the police because they're illegals.
dumbing it down to a single issue.
I'm going one issue at a time. We're just talking about this one.
So okay. So let me make sure. Let me steelman this. You're saying that if it 1-to-1, if we deport these people, that also could increase social cohesion?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so if this is the case, then when I ask you for why this would create more social cohesion, that actually wasn't an answer on that, because if we deported them, that would create just as much. Actually, it may create more social cohesion.
Yeah, it would create more because it'd be gone. Like there's no guarantee that it's gonna really affect the problem. Even if you do give them amnesty, it could be negligible. They could have some other reasons for not wanting to do it. Like I said, most Americans should be a little skeptical of just calling the police, getting the police involved with every single thing or whatever. I mean, yeah, report certain shit, but like, you should be able to rely on yourself and your community to some degree, and maybe not have to call the police on a lot of these situations. But it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do it, even if they're more likely to do it. But if you get rid of them, you don't have to worry about that problem at all. So it is, yeah. It's probably going to create more social cohesion because there are also other social cohesion problems that come along with, being an illegal immigrant, but, or just an immigrant in general.
Because if they're not there to have to report that they're the victims of crimes, we don't ever have to worry about them to begin with as far as the social fabric of society goes, right?
Sure. But I think you leave out the people that are going to be feel like their society betrayed them or their government betrayed them for deporting these people. I agree that there are maybe people, I don't know what your thoughts are, but there's people probably like
we betrayed our citizens by deporting non-citizens. Is that what he's saying right now? People are going to feel like, oh, well, the government has betrayed the people that they don't owe shit to. This is liberal logic right now. This is definitely liberal logic. Like I said, he's living up to the name Dirty Lib.
Steve and I debated, who would be very happy to see everybody that looks different in his neighborhood deported.
But
however,
I would just negate this to the contrary.
There are also people in that neighborhood who that would cause less social cohesion.
Yeah,
I think it's almost impossible to measure.
But do you understand that the argument to the contrary will work there just as much, that the government betrayed them by giving them status when an overwhelming majority of people who also voted Trump into office to do just this, Trump didn't do this, they would also feel equally betrayed. So again, that's not good for social cohesion either.
Well, I'm looking at polling. I don't think it's my contention that most people who voted for Trump didn't vote for this. I think most people who voted for Trump voted to get violent criminals out because that's all they ever.
No, I mean, I did some door knocking last election, so I can tell you for sure a lot of people that voted for Trump were they were voting for this, not just criminals. I mean, they're not too fond of the illegal immigrants in general. They're like, come in the right way, because there are a lot of legal immigrants that even have voted for Trump that can vote that are like, nah, fuck that. We went through the process, the proper process. We did everything right, and now all these motherfuckers who did everything wrong are getting the same benefits that we should be getting, or we should have gotten. You know, it's just like I have friends who their parents were residents, their whole lives until they actually turned 18 and were able to get their parents their citizenship. Like they waited years. They went through the process. They did everything the right way. And now we're just going to let people who just came in here, violated the law, and now just give them all amnesty. We're just going to forgive all of it. You're fine now. Fuck all the people that were actually, waiting in line and actually doing this shit the right way. We're going to reward you for doing the wrong thing. No. They don't like that. There are a lot of immigrants that don't like that. They think that's unfair. And there are them and the typical American citizens who understand that, amongst the other problems, that were like, no, they voted for Trump for deportations. Not all deportations. Of course, they're fine with, other remedies to the solution. I mean, to the problem. But yeah, this is what they voted for.
Ever talked about, and there's been very public figures. There's been very public figures like Andrew Schultz, who just came out and said, "This isn't what I voted for. I voted to go out." Joe Rogan has said the same thing. There's whatever that number is. There's a not insignificant.
Those are moderate.
Yeah. First of all, those are not really like Trump supporters for real. Those are people who are like, had the couple things that they voted for Trump for, and I'm pretty sure a lot of what they were talking about that for, or specifically, they were talking about like the Epstein stuff. A lot of these people, well, a lot of people aren't. They're like, oh, well, I didn't expect Trump to deport people. Like, I mean, if if you're a Trump supporter and you weren't expecting him to deport people, I'm just gonna go ahead and say you're fucking retarded. Like, at the very least, I expected some deportations. First time and this time. Because this is the second time he's been president. I expected him at some point to try to get some of these motherfuckers out of here. Because he campaigned on that. He didn't say he wasn't going to deport. He said he was going to deport some of these motherfuckers. He said he was going to get them the fuck out of here. Especially the criminals. So, what are we talking about?
By the way.
Yeah, but they also voted for him. So I'm just saying, like,
yeah, but they voted for. But many of those people may have voted for him because Kamala was worse.
Yeah. Maybe, but there are people that are saying I voted for this, and this isn't what's happening.
That is what the hard line of Trump MAGA base did indeed vote for.
Yeah, that is exactly what they voted for. A lot of the people that are saying this isn't what I voted for recently have been talking about like some Epstein shit and other shit. Like, I have not really seen real Trump supporters saying that this isn't what I voted for in reference to fucking deportations. I haven't seen that.
Agreed. Yeah. So the thing is like when you're talking, I'm just saying that I can negate that position with the same alternative position. You still haven't made. So I'd like to move to your next argument then. If this one's negated, what is the next social cohesion benefit that we would be getting here by not deporting these people?
I don't think that my argument today has much to do with social cohesion. I think social cohesion is so subjective and impossible to measure that I think that it's a bit pointless to argue, to be honest.
Well, I don't think it's pointless to argue, and I don't think that it's a metric which is not easily measured. You can look at things like voting patterns and what it is that the will of the people is when it comes to who they want to migrate to their countries or not. You can look at riots, and you can look at all sorts of different metrics to kind of see if there's social upheavals based on social cohesion. I think it's a very important metric, in fact.
Well, let's talk about the social
hang on. Let me finish. So the thing is that If I grant the economic argument, say our GDP may increase by a couple of percentage points by doing this.
Gotta speed
Your
this
whole
up.
point is if it does
That
more
is better,
harm
yes,
than
I
it
am
does
going to.
good. But if you grant that social cohesion to a nation is at least as important as GDP, and I would argue it's more important, but if you would at least argue it's at least as important, then you would have to not just make an argument for how it would make more money. For instance, I could import black slaves. That would definitely make us a lot more money. There's no doubt about that, right? But I'm guessing that that would be really bad for social cohesion, and that's what you
Yeah.
would base your objections on. And I think that that's completely fair. So if this is the case,
I don't know why he chose that, but like, it's a good point. I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of hyperbolic, so like, it really makes you like think about it. But yeah, no, he's a good point.
I need your arguments for how this makes us a more socially cohesive nation, not to just go ahead and spend the money. As you pointed out, the government's going to spend it anyway. They don't give a shit. Why not just let them spend it to remove, Hispanic and other overstay visa holders back to their nations of origin? If they're going to spend it anyway, you might as well spend it on something which moves us towards social cohesion. Can you negate
Yeah.
that?
What I was trying to say is I think it's really, really difficult to define social cohesion. For example, your viewpoints are a very, very, very small minority of the viewpoints of this country.
What are my
I
viewpoints?
would argue the ones that you're addressing. Your Christian nationalist view. I don't know if you call them that. Do you
No,
say
I'm
Christian
not.
nationalist?
No, social cohesion.
Hold on,
social
let me
cohe- yeah,
let me just explain.
okay.
I just didn't want to mislabel you. I don't know if you consider yourself a Christian nationalist, whatever they might be. I've just watched you debate, so I don't know specifically how you label yourself.
I think that if you labeled me anything, it would have nothing to do with my views on social cohesion.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I think if
It
you had a
has
Marxist nation, you would be
nothing to
using
do with
simpler
it at all.
metrics for what social cohesion is.
Agreed.
Just people who are in some way unified under a singular ideology, a single language, and single borders for the purposes of some goal. In this case, the purposes of advancing the interests of the nation. I think that.
But I think-
hang on,
I
I'm
think-
almost
oh,
done.
sorry.
I'm almost done.
Well,
I think that
this was my answer.
I think that multiculturalism most often seems to bring in a lack of social cohesion, does not add to it.
Yeah. So and I think that's why I've heard you reference Michael Savage's like 3 pillars, which are borders, language, and culture.
Yeah,
Culture.
Mhm.
Culture. I just think that when we're talking about social cohesion, if I look at polling, if I look at mass demonstrations, polling, the pulse of this country, the world's most popular podcast, maybe the 3rd or 4th most popular podcast, they don't seem to align with you. That you seem to be the problem for them. Your viewpoints seem to be causing the social divide here, and you're in a minority
my
position.
God.
So
What about the world's most popular?
So granting your position, I think, would be a net negative on social cohesion. I think more people would be
but
upset
how?
if you got your way than if I got my way.
Yeah, so if you were to, let's say, you barred all illegal immigrants from the nation and you deported all the ones that are here, are you saying that you think that the ones who were left behind would riot about it and be upset about it?
No, I'm talking about people here legally, American
Yeah,
citizens.
okay. Do you think that they would do that?
They are doing that.
And do you think that the opposition is true, that if it were the case that you did not do this, that you would have very upset people on the other side?
I don't think even close to the same.
Maybe
numbers.
not, but you still think that there would be very many upset people on the other side, right?
Yeah, but again, if
So
we're
how's
talking
that good for social cohesion?
about- Well, I don't think either of them are good for
It's
social
not, well,
cohesion.
that right.
So I
But
have-
what's the
just-
common
just-
denominator? What's the
Andrew,
common
would you mind-
denominator,
Andrew,
bro?
I'm letting you speak. Just let me finish this little part. I agree that I don't think you have a clear path forward here where there won't be social or where social cohesion won't be affected. What I'm saying is that I think if we're going to talk about social cohesion, we have to talk about like what's the majority view here. Because if you take the majority view, I think you're going to have less problems. But if you take the minority view, I think you're going to have a lot more problems.
Let's assume for a second that the majority view was that we should deport, and it was 51%. Would you still be against it?
I would, but I think you would
Well,
have.
then
a
it's
better,
negated.
But
Then
wait,
it's
but I think-
negated. It
but
doesn't
wait,
matter.
hold
It's
on.
irrelevant.
No. I
Yeah.
would personally, but I would think you had a better argument. If I thought a majority of people were siding with you, I would still state my case, but I would grant your point that actually it would cause more social cohesion if more people thought like you. I just don't think they do.
Yeah, but the point is that the common denominator between both ends of the fence, even if I was in the minority, my view that you should deport them all and you were in the majority, whatever that is, right? I don't think that you would say that I'm in the vast majority or you would say that you are. You could maybe
think
say
I am.
that you're in the vast majority. How much more?
I think so. I think it's probably like a 70-30 issue.
70-30.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's assume even that. I'll just grant it. I think that that's absurd. You couldn't demonstrate it in a million years. I would love if you did, but I don't think you can. But I'll just
I could show new polling from Gallup that said like 67% currently of Americans disapprove of the way Trump is handling immigration.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell us that they don't want the immigrants deported.
That's true. And I think that
Yeah.
polling has changed. I think that in November, you saw much higher numbers of people saying they wanted immigrants deported. But when they saw, and again, my problem
But
with
what's the
Trump-
common denominator between both sides here? Even if I grant your position or you grant mine, the common denominator is the illegal immigrants themselves, meaning that we already have the thing we can point to for the social cohesion problem to begin with. In
Yeah.
other words, the very idea here that this is allowed at all, right, is the thing that we can point to that's causing this social disturbance to begin with. So the elimination of this social disturbance for social
Yeah,
cohesion
if you
purposes seems
had-
like something you and I would agree to. You're just arguing
No, I
degree.
don't.
If you had less or none of these immigrants, it wouldn't be as much of a problem. Like, I mean, even if there's like some level of social cohesion, even if there's some like higher level of social or lower level of social cohesion now, once you get rid of some of the immigrants, I mean, it's still going to go up. So you would have to demonstrate how it's not. Like, people can complain about it while it's happening, but like once it's happened and we kind of fix the system, and who knows, we can still have people coming in. You just have like a better pathway for them to come in. There's no guarantee that it would stay where it's at now. People are just making a big fuss now because it's happening right now. But like his first argument for social cohesion was about, people like afraid to call the police and shit or whatever. And he admitted that the problem would be completely solved if we got rid of the immigrants. Like, so, I mean, getting rid of some of them now, even if people are like, rioting in the streets about it, it's like eventually they're going to stop. And if we don't have the problem anymore in the future, and it's something that neither side has to complain about because we kind of, fixed the immigration system, or at least, made some changes to the immigration system, and people are, for the most part satisfied with it. Well, if people aren't being deported at the rate that they are now, which is pretty much what they're complaining about, and what's happening now isn't going on, it's not going to be too much, problems with social cohesion, if that makes sense. I mean, like, things change over time. Like right now, it's a big problem, but it's probably still going to be less of a problem if we have less of them coming in here and we get rid of some of them. Because to be honest, if they keep coming in here at the rate that they're coming in here, and there are people that are still upset about it, there's still going to be a social cohesion problem. And it's probably only going to get worse the more and more of them that come in. Because, I mean, you can't really avoid that. I mean, he admitted it, right? And unless, again, it kind of works both ways. Unless we make some changes to the immigration system, it's going to upset people on either side, no matter what the solution is, whether it's amnesty or anything else. But, granting amnesty will still come with its social cohesion problems. Because then it'll be the opposite of the people complaining about the deportations. There'll be people here that are complaining that we just gave them all amnesty. When, you could be an American and get locked up for less.
I don't agree with that, because what you're talking about.
How can you fight over people who aren't
The
here?
part that they are here. That's the point. If
Yeah, but they wouldn't be if we deported them.
I know, but they are, and we have to deal with reality. Your position makes a whole lot of fucking sense if there's nobody here, and if everybody in America is like, should we bring 13 million people in here overnight? I think overwhelmingly, including myself, Americans would say no, that's ridiculous. But we're faced with a situation here that they're already here, and people have humanity.
It doesn't have to be overnight.
And people have emotional connections. And if we're talking about social cohesion, we're talking about a broad variety of views, and I think yours is more in the minority than mine.
Let's show just how often this has changed. If you go back just 1 year, do you agree that the polls were wildly different on how it pertained to doing mass deportations or not?
Yeah, can I add a qualifier to that?
Sure.
I think that the polls were different, but nobody knew Trump was going to do it this way. And I think that now that he's doing it this way, that's what's causing the change.
I agree. So if that's the case, it's probably more likely that more people agree with me that they should be deported. You just don't like how they're deporting them.
Yeah, but that's changing now. Those numbers are changing now.
Yeah, but they're not there for you. They're there for me. And so when you look at
they're there for me. They're changing in my direction.
Show me.
I just cited the Gallup poll
Which
saying
says
that people do not approve of the way that Trump's doing deportations.
Not that they disapprove of deportations.
That's what I just said.
No,
I just
they don't
said,
approve of how he's handling him.
That's what I said. I said last year, and the caveat I added to it is that people were guessing, and now that it's here and it's really happening, they're against it.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, they liked it, but when they saw what it's doing, all of a sudden there's a very visceral reaction.
No, it just makes them feel bad. They don't like the way it looks. And to be honest, is that really even true? Like, because when you ask somebody, do you approve of the way that Trump's handling the deportations? First of all, we're assuming that these people know how they're actually being handled. And if their information on how it's being handled is coming from propaganda outlets, from like the side that, doesn't want it to happen, they're probably going to frame it in the most terrible way possible to get you to answer in the negative, right? Because then you look like a heartless person if you said, yeah, and they were like, well, he's just picking people up off the streets and throwing them in cages and like, the whole kids in cages thing. Like, so even if you're asking people that, and they're saying that they don't like the way it's being handled. It's like, we should probably confirm that they know how it's being handled first, and that they're not just being, seeing what the media is saying about it, because the majority of the media, we already know, is not on Trump's side. They've always had a problem with it. They've always tried to frame anything he does on the immigration side in the most terrible way possible. So I'm not even sure I'm gonna take like the results of this poll seriously in any capacity. Like,
to it, and that is destroying social cohesion.
So if it is the case then that these people are deported, right, in a way that people do approve of, right, but they are deported, right, that would be good for social cohesion.
Yeah, I think that if you were not going through and destroying community trust, workplace trust, I think that a lot of the problem that we have here is the lack of humanity with the way that we are doing deportations. Nobody rioted when Trump deported people his first time around. Nobody rioted when Obama did it.
What's
Nobody
the
rioted
lack
when Bush
of
did it.
humanity?
Because most of what they did is they took people at the border and they sent them back, and then they gave people their due process and they deported people after going through immigration courts. But this administration seems to purposely skip that. They're seeking people out at court. They're seeking out people at school. They're seeking out people at work, and it seems like the cruelty is kind of the point for them, and that's what people object to.
So then, when we look at,
or maybe they're just being thorough. I mean, he's only got, a couple more years, and then he's not going to be in there again.
This proposition, then, it is a moral question, isn't it?
For a lot of people, yeah, sure.
No, period. When we're talking about whether it does more harm than good, what we're really talking about is a moral proposition, not if removing these people from the nation is morally bad. For the purposes of social cohesion, you've agreed that that can be fine. It's the methodology that you find immoral or that people object to. So this is actually a moral question, isn't it?
To them, to me, I find no matter what, I'm going to be in favor of amnesty. Even if
no matter what,
even if I'm the position that I've said, like no matter what everybody else thinks, I'm going to be in favor of amnesty. But if 80% of the country was like you,
I want amnesty.
I just have to eat it, and I don't think that it would have near the effect on social cohesion. So yes, I agree. For a lot of people, this is a moral issue, and they have a visceral reaction to it. But there's also a financial component to it, which I think leads to a good argument to say, because there's a financial benefit, why don't we take everybody who's not committing crimes and let's give them amnesty? Let's be done with this, because then you can take all those resources that we just gave to ICE, and instead of raiding communities and schools and hospitals and courthouses, we can focus that on the border. We can focus it on human trafficking. We can focus it on drug running. We can focus it on a lot of important things. This is so
descriptively, that's not what happened. So is it? Like under Biden's administration, he made very lofty promises to the same degree, and that's not what happened. Instead, they were busing. They had convoys of people coming in fact, and they were enabled in doing this, and that caused a counter visceral reaction. No, I'm not talking about those convoys. I'm talking about under Biden, there was convoys. The
convoys started in 2019, though.
What does that have to do with anything? That was as an objection to Trump, and that was, by the way, orchestrated by NGOs. And you fucking know.
Bro, what the fuck? No, it's because we went in and we staged a coup in Venezuela, and then we stopped buying their oil, which is 80% of their economy, and we took 50% of their oil purchases, and we stopped buying it. We crashed their economy overnight because, and it was so bad that Trump, on his way out the door, wrote an executive order giving protected status to Venezuelans due to his administration's actions in Venezuela. Don't give me this like, that was because they were mad at Trump. No, it's because we interfere everywhere and we decimate economies.
So to get this right, to get this right, huge Democrat NGOs, non-government organizations weren't involved.
I can't confirm any of that Venezuela shit. I don't remember that. You said we staged a coup in Venezuela? I can't even remember what the name of the leader was in Venezuela. I don't remember any of this. We'll just grant him that. We'll just assume that that's true. I don't feel like looking it up to confirm, because I have a feeling it's not as black and white as he said it just now. But we'll just grant it to him. We'll see if Andrew can like refute it or not, or whether it's not necessarily relevant to the point. So I would rather not even dive into it.
In the planning and the execution of those convoys, and they weren't giving them aid every step of the way. There wasn't massive amounts of media who were following them, giving them 24-hour coverage at the behest of their donors. None of that happened, huh?
No, that all happened, but that's not why they were coming.
Yeah, that all happened. Yeah, exactly.
They were coming so that somebody would help them along the way.
No, I think
that sounds like good Christian people to me. I think, that see a bunch of people fleeing their country because their country is desperate. Maybe I agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that grandstand off of immigration.
Yeah, it's opportunistic. And so the thing is
like, didn't want to leave.
But help me out here. Like this is what I don't get.
Wait. We just have to start. If we're going to be honest here, we can't pretend that these people decided to come to America because NGOs are like, hey, we'll help you along the way.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Well, then explain to me why they
I'll explain.
I didn't ask the question. Explain to me why they weren't coming in masses, and then we staged a coup in Venezuela. We stopped buying their oil, and then they came.
Because you have to have a correct political environment to stage these things. The same exact thing I would point to would be the most recent riots, which happened in California. If you don't have the correct political conditions, NGOs cannot orchestrate how these things operate. So the same thing happens in ICE raid, let's say, at a Home Depot in California, leads to a bunch of very organic riots, right?
So what are the conditions here? That
no,
they weren't.
About? They weren't organic. Well,
so
in this case, you take a catastrophe where people say, "Well, there's a humanitarian crisis." That's
why was there a humanitarian?
That's
crisis?
A great. Well, regardless of why, I'm just explaining to you the process.
Let's
just say that.
Bro, let him finish.
Let's just say for a second, just for the sake of argument, because the United States lobbed a fucking nuke and nuked Venezuela, and so all the refugees are heading this way.
Let's just say that they staged a coup and it didn't, and it failed, and then
we'll just say whatever. Yeah, it's irrelevant to the point, though.
No,
it's irrelevant to the
what
point.
Started it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, did we stage a coup? Is that even like an actual fact, or is it just like one of those claims that people make? I'm not like, I know America does this kind of shit. I'm just like, whatever he's referring to, I'm like, is that really the reason? Did we even do that? Like,
it's irrelevant to my point. If we lobbed a fucking nuke, it wouldn't matter. It's irrelevant to my point. My point is that that would create whatever the conditional.
That's like what I was saying. Like, it has nothing to do with it. Like, even if it was true, it would still be like, you know, people taking advantage of the opportunity to sow dissent.
Are for NGOs to begin to come in and point to this is a humanitarian crisis, therefore the United States needs to solve it against whatever our own border policies are and our own interests are. Because NGOs have their own interests. But even if we did, even if we did drop a nuke, let's just say, we still don't have to, as a conditional of that, let tens of thousands or millions of people in this country. That's absurd.
We actually did. We had to.
Did what? No, we didn't.
Had to let, yeah, we did.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
We have amnesty laws.
Yes. Well, so these are things that we can get rid of, right?
Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you. But what happened? We tried to change the amnesty laws, and Trump said, "Fuck that! I want to win. I want to campaign on this." So James Langford, we're not voting for your bill. Then he campaigned on, look at all this shit that's happening at the border, while the Republicans sat with two thumbs in their ass and did nothing. I agree with you. I was an advocate for James Langford's bill. And by the way, we're now 6 months into this presidency. Full control of the House.
That is not why. Tell us the real reason why the amnesty bill was killed.
House, Senate, and presidency, and we still haven't fixed our amnesty.
What else was added? What else was added in the amnesty bill?
Are you talking about the Ukraine funding?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened is, the whole story is, they said, the Democrats said, we want to fund Ukraine. And the Republicans said, we won't fund Ukraine unless you write a border bill. And they're like, cool, who do you want to write it? They're like, James Langford, he's our most conservative. So he worked on a bipartisan measure in the Senate. They came up with what Lindsey Graham called the most conservative border bill in the history of this country.
Lindsey Graham, the least conservative guy?
The
least conservative guy? He came up with the most conservative bill, bro?
I'm not gonna lie, the fact that he used Lindsey Graham is hilarious.
Tell me Lindsey Graham's not conservative on the border.
He's not. He's not conservative on anything.
But so the Republicans asked to send a bill, and they brought the bills together. And what did the Republicans do? Mike Johnson said, never mind, we're going to split these bills up. And they took the Senate bill about immigration, and they set it over here because Trump wanted to keep running on immigration. And they took the Ukraine bill, and they put it on the House floor, and they voted for it, and they passed it. So they only passed the Ukraine bill, and they refused to pass the immigration bill.
By whose majority? Hang on. The House by whose majority?
Mike Johnson.
Hang on. That bill. So let's count the number of Democrats to Republican bills or Republican votes on it, shall we?
They didn't vote on it. He wouldn't bring it to the floor.
I'm sorry. I thought you just said they voted on it.
No, I said he took the immigration bill and he set it aside.
No, I'm talking about the Ukraine bill.
And they voted on the Ukraine bill standalone, and it passed.
And how many votes Democrat versus Republican?
I don't know, but enough Republicans.
You should fucking know because that's an important, pertinent piece of this.
You said that's why they didn't.
Yeah, because I mean, like
they didn't. Okay, so there.
I don't remember exactly what they're talking about, but I'm assuming if it's the Ukraine bill that they're talking about, it's probably majority Democrats who voted on that.
I just want to make sure when they split the bill, I'm just going to make sure before I shove this up your ass, when they split the bill, right? When you say they split the bill, there was nothing else inside of second bill, right?
I don't know if there was some extra pork spending. I don't know.
Oh, no. Oh, come on, dude. You don't know?
Do you know?
Yeah, I do. I want to know. Was there?
What was in the Ukraine bill?
Was there? Not the Ukraine bill, the immigration bill. The split off.
Yeah, it was immigration and Ukraine funding.
Yeah, but when it's split.
They didn't vote on the immigration bill.
I know. Was there anything else which was demanded for that bill?
Not that I know of. Do you know something?
Nothing.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. And I would like to when I put this in, right? I'd like for you to read it out loud. Sure. Also, on top of that, I would just like.
I want to know what this is now. I don't remember this, but yeah, like I said, I thought it was Ukraine funding, and I'm assuming, like, you know how they do with these bills. There's always some kind of there's something that they sneak into them. So when they split the immigration and Ukraine funding bill, and it was just Ukraine funding, there was still probably something in there.
like to point out that you actually didn't make a single refutation about any of the NGOs which are operating within the confines, especially of the DNC, which assisted in orchestrating those convoys. And on top of
No, I
that,
agreed with
you
you.
still haven't made a single.
I agreed with you on
You
that.
still haven't made a single argument about how social cohesion is increased, except the
I
volatility
never
of
said
the
it did
mob.
increase.
Yeah, well then, if it's the case that you just make everything on GDP, every one of your arguments is just GDP go up, it's good, regardless of social cohesion.
Your social cohesion, you can't prove your social cohesion. It's just your thought.
Bro,
I think it'll go up. I think it'll go down.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Tell me a single social up.
Didn't he? I mean, he made an argument about social cohesion that he could really support, and like when it fell apart when Andrew actually gave him like an alternative. He's like, oh, well, yeah, actually deporting them would increase social cohesion in this area. So like, I mean, he's done a little bit more than you as far as proving his social cohesion part of the argument.
Upheaval in recent memory, okay, that wasn't due to my diversity is my fucking strength. One.
The diversity is my strength.
Yeah, to my diversity. What recent social any social uprising that you can think of inside of the United States, and even the last 50 years, can you point to any of them that didn't have to do with the fact that we had a lack of social cohesion due to the massive influx of immigrants to the nation?
Sure, Black Lives Matters. I don't think that was immigrant based.
No.
Do you think it was immigrant based?
Yeah, I think that the compadres of BLM, who were the most advocates,
who
attached themselves to the to BLM itself, were mostly minorities.
What do you mean BLM itself?
Yeah, so let me explain. Hispanics and other minorities often have a habit of adopting black victimhood. So they'll say all these horrible things happen to black people throughout history. I would even agree that this is true. But they didn't happen to Hispanics throughout history, but they'll often, other minorities.
Nah, Andrew is cooking right now. I kind of like this is shit that we be talking about. They be like trying to claim our struggles their own. It's like, well, motherfucker, y'all, most of the time, y'all be passing as white. Y'all don't have to deal with none of this shit.
Will adopt themselves to black victimization in order to advocate their various causes. This also happened with BLM. BLM was
they like to mix up a bunch of shit into the causes. Like BLM was a bunch of LGBTQ shit. Half of that shit, like they was talking about a bunch of shit that had nothing to do with black people.
not organic at all. This was completely NGO based. It was not organic in the least. In fact, I can give you all of the various actor organizations which contributed millions of dollars to various BLM funds.
When me and my friends went to BLM rallies, that wasn't organic. That was just NGO based.
Yeah, how did you hear about them?
Facebook.
Facebook. And the Facebook groups that you were a part of, were they called things
part
like
of any Facebook groups.
So how did you hear about them on Facebook?
People would share the links.
To what?
To Facebook.
To what on Facebook?
To the protest. It would be like
to the protest. Did people organize these protests?
Yeah.
They did. Interesting. Can you show me any of those links of the protest organizers that aren't linked to an NGO?
Right. I don't understand this.
I know you don't understand this, which is why we're going through it. Andrew, can you name for me a single one of these Facebook links for these protests that aren't linked to an NGO?
Let me just clarify. To you, an NGO is any organization that's non-governmental.
A non-government organization which is organized for political action. In this case, would be an NGO.
Oh no, it's certainly through NGOs.
Yes, all of them were through fucking NGOs. So when you say Black Lives Matter had nothing to do with the social cohesion of minorities.
You said immigration. You said immigration.
Bro, no, I said minorities.
Sarah, back me up there. He said immigration, right?
No, due to immigration. The minority influx due to immigration. It is due to immigration. Those minorities would not be here. Those minorities.
I was there because of immigration.
Yes, actually, I'll explain how.
I was in Phoenix, like almost everybody there.
Do you want me to? I don't completely agree with Andrew, but like, I mean, he is making somewhat of a point. There's definitely like, I mean, there's people were saying this a lot too. Like, the majority of the people that were out there protesting were not black people. They were like, white liberals, and I mean, there was probably a decent amount of Hispanics and shit out there too. But we'll see where he's going with the rest of this.
Need to explain it?
80% of the people there that were white.
Do you want me to explain it or
not?
But
just like after I'm done talking.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, a lot of, just to be fair, like, we consider y'all motherfuckers white. I'm not gonna lie. Like, a lot of y'all motherfuckers, we consider y'all to be white. Like, I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Don't ask me that. You just asked me a question. So I was there because of blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, tell me why I was there.
Yeah, so here's why you were there. You were there because you clicked on an NGO-funded link. Many of those NGOs.
How do you know it's funded?
Well, I'll explain that too. Especially.
Well, you don't know what link I clicked on, and you're assuming it's funded now?
You yourself said that it was an NGO, non-government funded organization.
You said funded.
Yeah, funded.
NGOs. That's what I asked. I said, is every group a non-governmental agency? And you NGO. You said yes. Does that require funding?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the groups. How do you know that the group that I clicked on was funded?
Okay, so just to get this right, you don't think that these groups were funding their own protests?
I think there are.
How did they get their money, bro? Like, most of these NGOs are also nonprofits. So I mean, like, they need their funding from somewhere.
A lot of groups that are funded, and I think there are a lot of them that are grassroots, and you are putting a blanket.
Who also have funding?
They're all funded. No, the grassroots ones don't always have funding.
Okay, so how do they organize then?
They just word of mouth on Facebook. It's free. I don't know if you have Facebook. You just sign up.
So they don't have links to like GoFundMe's.
You can make your own.
They don't have links to GoFundMe's.
Not to protest. There was no.
Yeah, to protest. Yes, there was.
They don't get donations.
Yes, I bet you anything there was. If you could tell me, I'll tell you what. You tell me, it's not crazy. That's what they do. They utilize.
If you're making this claim that all of these are paid for, it's up to you to show that all of them were paid for.
Okay,
I'm waiting for that.
They are. They're definitely paid for. I'm pretty sure I think the ones who were donating the most, I think, were like, there's obviously, there's like the rich people, but there's people always mention George Soros, but there's specific organizations that he's behind, and then there's was it like Act Blue, if I'm not mistaken? Wasn't Act Blue one of them?
Okay, if you have a grassroots campaign, let's say a grassroots campaign, how do you organize it?
If I had a grassroots campaign, I would organize it through social media. I have a Discord.
You would organize it through social media.
I have TikTok. I would make graphics. I would have them share them out. We'd probably create a Facebook group, perhaps a WhatsApp group, and we would share that out, and everybody could join, and we could do stuff together. We've done stuff like that in the Discord.
So would you organize for transportation?
You could.
Would you?
If it was far away, sure.
Okay. Would you organize for things like water and food?
Probably not. I don't know. I've never been given water and food. I've never been given water and food at a protest.
But you would at least organize for transportation?
Sure, but by carpooling.
Would that require funding?
No, just carpooling.
Oh, just carpooling. That's it.
Yeah.
So these
That's how I got there.
these massive. So to get this right, these massive organic. Just from your view, these massive organic organizations.
They're just carpooling.
It was all organic, by the way.
I didn't say
they just went. They just went on Facebook.
You said all of them were funded. I said some are organic and some aren't. You're making the claim.
Yeah, they all have trickle down funding.
All of them were funded.
Yeah, they have trickle down funding. Yes, they do.
Substantiate that.
Actually, I can substantiate that.
Then do.
Okay, I will. So let's start with how the media complex works in.
Fuck out of here. No, show me the documents, please.
For which thing?
For that all of them are funded.
Yes, I'll literally explain this logically. I can actually show you documents.
I don't want logic. I want
I'm going to do both.
It's
my turn. Yeah, I'll do both.
Yeah, I mean, you can demonstrate something logically. You don't have to present like a bunch of like papers and evidence and shit. Like you can connect it into a logical chain where it's like this necessarily has to happen. Then you've demonstrated it. So let's see what he's got.
Both. I'll show you all the NGO funding. So the case is that when you start with mass media groups, most mass media groups are NGO funded. Most of them are NGO, non-government organizations which fund media. Fox News is in the pocket of NGO.
Are you funded, by the way?
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not mass media.
I was just wondering. Well, there's people that are smaller than you that get funding, so I just wondered.
Yes, there are. Luckily, I can make the claim. I've only ever one time read an advertisement on stream for CBD because that was like an ad that came up. I didn't even read the ad. But I'm 100% audience funded and always have been.
I love that.
Yeah, and anyway, so that aside, if you start looking at the trickle down from media down. Let's start with the idea of how mass media operates. They all operate through NGO, non-government organizational funding.
Yep.
Now, many of them actually have government organizational funding that they trickle through NGOs. This is why Fox News, right-wing, CNN dialectically left-wing. It's because the NGO donors who are sending into them, they have a certain agenda that they want to get pushed through that media complex. That's why Democrats often will use CNN, MSNBC, and they'll use their specific NGO funders in order to push that money through, and the same thing with Fox News. If any of this stuff with George Floyd, which trickled down from the idea of these top-level organizations, which would be the mass media, are funded by NGOs, all of these supposedly organic protests that you're talking about are actually being influenced by NGOs as well. Yes, they're all
funded, not influenced.
That is funding. It's just funding which is displays trickle down.
Wait, hold on. Influence is funding?
Yes, of course.
By what definition is influence funding?
Well, listen, if you do a thing...
No, I need a definition. Now it's your turn.
I'll give it to you.
He's like, he might have him a little bit here, but like influence isn't funding, but like we got to see where he's going to take this because, I mean, like generally these people are still going to need some level of funding, and the influence is going to contribute to it. It's going to usually direct it in a particular direction.
I need you to explain to me how funding is influence, please.
Yeah, so in fact, I would say most funding is influence, and most funders use influencers, either in the mass media or even now it's been moving on to YouTube, Twitch,
especially when it comes to like
Victory. That's
especially if you're getting donations, because in order for people to donate, like you're gonna need like some level of influence, right? You're gonna need to be able to get your stuff out in front of people's faces, and this is why media is so important when it comes to fundraising.
Massive Twitch pack,
especially for things like protests.
Yeah, well, I'll explain it. It's a massive Twitch pack which bought up almost every Twitch streamer, including Destiny, including Vosh, including Wick, including all these people. Wick, in fact, right now, who frequents Sarah's channel, I believe still gets money from Progressive Victory, same as Counterpoints. The thing is that they use this particular NGO, Progressive Victory, uses these Twitch streamers in order to organize, right? And what they do is they go ahead and they put out all these promos, and then their little, like minions, right? They'll organize without any money at all. And you would say, that's all grassroots. No, fucker, that's not grassroots. What that actually is an NGO. What it actually is, hang on, stop. No, I'm not. Let me finish. That's actually a bunch of fucking NGOs which are trickle-down funding the idea that you, the guy who just clicked a Facebook link and it was all fucking organic. It was all totally organic. There's no NGOs involved. Yeah, there was fucking NGOs involved, fucker. Yes, there was.
Get it out. Yeah, that was fucking stupid. Yeah, who are you talking to? I never said that none of them were funded.
You said that you said I couldn't demonstrate that they all are. They actually all are, yeah.
No, you didn't. You said that.
Yeah, I did.
No, you said you named a bunch of people that were paid.
He did basically demonstrate how they're all funded. I mean, like, he did. Because, I mean, the way that they organize is because of this mass media influence. And this NGO influence. That's the only way that they're able to even organize and gather the funding they need. And get the attention they need from the people that get involved in everything. I mean, he's made it a pretty good case. It's not technically directly them putting money in their pockets, but, you know, they wouldn't have it if it wasn't for them and their influence. So he's kind of made the connection.
That's all you did.
All
these people are paid.
No,
if
listen,
anybody,
if you just would in a good faith, listen, for 2 seconds you would agree.
Right? Wouldn't this be funded?
No,
it's my turn.
No, not everything is funded. No, not everything is funded.
If I have influence on somebody, is it funded?
If you have NGOs backing you or backing the person who you're following, yes.
Okay, but how do you know that the person that made my Facebook group was influenced by that funding?
Because all of mass media, which orchestrated the Black Lives Matter to begin with, was NGO funded, which trickled down.
How do you know that's who did it? How do you know that's
because you wouldn't have even there would not have even been an organization. There would not have even been an organized protest had it not been for the organizations at the top, which were NGO funded. It wouldn't have even existed.
Even by your measure, this is
you screaming's not a refutation.
Brother, I'm making fun of you because you just screamed.
I don't care what you make fun of. You don't even know what you're talking about.
I mean, he's right. I mean, even Black Lives Matter itself didn't just pop up into existence out of nowhere. Like, they were getting funding.
Just made up an argument that I didn't.
There's no made up argument.
You started screaming.
All you've done is screech at the top of your lungs, but have not made a refutation.
That's you.
How? When did I scream?
You just were.
I never did. You just made that up too. You've gotten routed at every point of the debate because you won't even engage with what I'm saying.
You're doing great, Andrew.
Yes, I am.
You got about 15 more.
I always do.
I know it. I know. Undefeated.
Use wisely.
This is definitely beside the point right now, though.
Well, not undefeated, just not defeated by you.
Sure. I don't. This is the problem that I think that, I'll just not even speak to Andrew. To the people that are watching here, this is the fucking problem. The problem is Andrew is here to debate his ideology, and I'm not really interested in his fucking ideology, frankly, because it's fucking stupid and it relies on a hypothetical God that doesn't exist, and all of this is just a way for Andrew to justify. No, this is. I was influenced by NGOs. They sent this all down to me.
That actually probably was influenced by NGOs.
I was influenced by NGOs.
You probably were actually.
Not the 8 hours of watching you stream where I accidentally got a nicotine addiction, which has been a motherfucker to try and kick, by the way. I just think that you don't want to debate any of this. I think that you want to create an ideological following, which you have, and you've been very successful about it. And the people that reach out to me to debate you, they're all ideologues too. And the problem that they have that you don't realize is you're really fucking good at this, but the people that follow you are really fucking dumb, and they can't make up arguments on the spot. So they're unable to defend any of this because you give them nothing. You give them vibes. You give them Christian nationalism. I wanted to discuss the numbers here. I would love to see you refute some numbers, but every time we get into the numbers, you just want to discuss numbers. You just want to tell me more about your feelings.
Yeah, but do you understand that the debate proposition here is this? Are the deportations, do they do more good than harm?
They're getting back on topic.
I literally just grant the numbers. Why would we need to talk about a thing I'm willing to grant in order to still show you how the argument is flawed, even if I grant the numbers?
I don't think you've done that,
so hang on, stop. So what your argument just now was to me was, Andrew, why won't we talk about numbers? Why do we need to talk about a thing I'm willing to grant?
All right, then I won. That's great.
That's not a win.
My numbers are correct.
What's the proposition?
If you care more,
what's the proposition?
Then the financial success of this country.
What's the proposition? What's the proposition?
If you would prefer our country to be in a better financial position with immigrants, you side with me. This is an easy one. But one of us is providing solutions. One of us is giving you data.
Yes, I agree. One of us is.
And the other one wants to talk about what harm means.
Now, do you understand the distinction here? So the gentleman over here says, I win because numbers good. Great. The thing that's so interesting here is that the proposition is more good than harm. And the problem and this is so apparently fucking funny to me that he doesn't even understand that. He's too stupid to understand.
You have to prove that whatever you're claiming is harm is actually even harm. So yeah, I mean, that's a good thing for him to attack. Like,
I'm right here, dipshit. You can
If
say
it
hi
is,
to me.
if it is,
You
the
don't have to
case,
talk. Guys,
how
doesn't
can you
even understand.
how can you
Talk to
start
me.
by saying I'm going to
Talk
address
to
the?
me.
How are you going to start by saying I'm going to address the
right,
audience
that's
and
fair,
not you,
that's
and then
fair.
I can't do that?
No, that's
You-
fair.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right
the
about
dumbest
that.
thing I ever fucking heard. So anyway, so you point out, you say, hey, what about the numbers? I want to talk about the numbers. However, I was willing to grant the numbers and still show you the absurdity
There
of
we
the conclusion.
Which was what?
Even if it's the case that immigrants gave us, I don't know, 20% more GDP, which I think you
Fuck
could
yeah.
argue way
That's true.
better. Let's just say if it was 20% versus illegals. If I grant the position, you don't have to argue it because it's granted. The whole purpose here is for me to demonstrate to you how there's many contributing factors to illegal immigration other than my fucking GDP. All you just stated was, hey, audience, if you want a higher GDP, do X, but you're not giving them an actually good reason what is good, what is bad, why they should do this thing. Only if numbers right, then what? Are you saying that if the case was that we imported slaves and the GDP goes up by 3%, that slavery is good?
No.
Okay, why?
Because slavery is bad.
Okay.
Fucking stupid.
I don't know where to go from there.
See, this is exactly what the problem with his argument is. Like, just because we have some kind of economic benefit from doing it doesn't mean it's like a net positive for the country or even the culture or anything. Like, you have to have more to your argument than just that. This is a debate on whether Trump's deportations cause more harm than good.
There, dude.
I know you don't. I know
Why
you
is it? Why is slavery? Because slavery is bad.
Let's talk about it for 12 more fucking hours.
Yeah, do you understand why is it? But listen, actually contend with what I'm saying to you, and you'll have an easier time. If I
Like, he basically just admitted that his argument is flawed. Like Andrew was like, oh, well, if we increase our GDP and we had a bunch of slaves, would you still say we should do that? And he was like, no, because slavery is bad. It's like, oh, okay, exactly. This is what he's saying about immigration or illegal immigration.
imported a bunch of slaves and it increased the GDP, why would you still say that was bad?
Because I don't think that you should be able to take people's labor and own it and not pay them. In fact,
So
I mean, you believe in it to a certain degree. You believe that we should be able to take people's labor and pay them a very, very minuscule amount. You believe that. That's why you don't want to get rid of the immigrants. That's the main thing. That was his main argument for why it's an economic benefit to us and stupid to deport them. Like, because he can't really believe they're getting paid a lot to do a lot of this agricultural work.
I'm kind of against even
that makes sense.
the way that we distribute labor as it is.
So you would look at other contributing factors to social cohesion and morality before you made a decision, not just numbers.
Sure, and we talked about social cohesion.
But the problem is we didn't really get into the rest of this.
No, there too. I think that you're
we're not in the minority.
I think
You can think that all you want to. You basically lost the social cohesion part of this debate. I'm not gonna lie.
your position of how it would hurt social cohesion is a very minority view, and I don't think it's very compelling.
Yeah, but you saying it's not very compelling isn't giving an argument for how we would have less when you yourself point out that it is based around this, that we have the lack of social cohesion to begin with. The fact that we're fighting about it is a literal indictment itself on mass migration itself.
Yeah,
so this very idea that we could then move these people out of here and not have more social cohesion to me is fucking insane.
Yeah, look, look, white nationalists are going to be bitches no matter what.
It's not white nationalism.
I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about the white nationalists that are going to throw a fit. Like
he's just completely lost the plot now. I think he's just given up at this point.
Going to be bitches. I think people who want an ethno state are bitches. They're going to be bitches.
Like the Japanese.
But these bitches are in a minority.
Japanese
and you
are
happen
bitches?
to hold, and you also happen to hold a minority view. Yeah, I think anybody who wants an ethno state is a bitch. Yeah.
Why?
100%.
Why?
Because I think it's just closed-minded,
What's wrong with an ethno state?
fear-mongering bullshit.
Should Native Americans be allowed to have an ethno state on their own tribes?
Oh boy.
Should they be able to, or do I think?
Yeah. Do you think they should be able to? Are they
Sure,
bitches?
any-
Are they
any-
bitches? Say Native Americans who want tribal sovereignty and they only want the Native Americans on their land are bitches. Say it. What else is that? It's their own country, dude.
Yeah, look, I think if any group of people thinks that they get to remove people out of the country,
Not remove, just not let in. Just not let in.
You're
Just
trying
not
to
let
remove
in.
them. No, you're
Yeah,
trying
but
to
even if
remove
I
them.
wasn't,
That's what we're talking about.
even
This whole
bro.
fucking argument's about removing people.
Okay.
You don't have, bro. Like, what the fuck? What would be the point of getting rid of them if you weren't like trying to have a country where you didn't even let them in? Like, people could still probably try to find some way to get into your country even if you didn't want them to be in there. Like, it's just like an ethno state is an ethno state. Whether you're deporting people or not letting people in.
You know what's funny? I'll even grant this. Do you think that Native Americans, if they were able to show that you were on their sovereign land via treaty from the United States government, and there was 300 white families there, that it would be perfectly morally permissible for them to remove them so that became Indian-only land?
If there were white families living on land that was granted to them, would they be able to remove those people?
Yeah.
Yeah, for property rights, sure.
And do you think that that's fine?
Yeah, I believe in property rights.
Great. That's all the fucking white nationalists believe in, is that their country is their property and they have property rights, you fucking doofus.
But you don't own
What
the
a stupid
country.
fuck.
You guys don't own the country because it's collectively owned. You think you own
Collectively
the
owned by who?
all of the citizens of the United States.
Oh, wait a second. So to get this right, as long as it's the case that a sovereign nation collectively decides to remove people they don't want in the nation, that's fine. And as long as they collectively don't want people in, that's also fine.
Agreed. And
That's what. Welcome to white nationalism.
Yeah, but
I mean, look, he's got him. He's got him.
Fucking idiot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, you guys don't own the nation. You're the dumb bitches. You're just
Yeah, the dumb bitches.
You're just dumb bitches. That get
They're
mad
dumb
when you
bitches who are allowed to do whatever they
Yeah.
want as long as they have majority rule.
No, I said you guys don't run the country. If 90% of this country were dumbass white nationalists, yeah, they could probably dictate who comes and who doesn't. But the problem is you guys like
You said the Japanese were bitches
your
if they did
belief-
that.
Your belief is less than 1% of this
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, like most countries, I'm not gonna lie. Like I would say most countries are essentially ethno states. Like especially in the East, at least. The West is like trying to be like all liberal and shit nowadays. So they're like letting anybody in, like a bunch of people, immigrants, whatever. They're shipping people into their country. But a lot of countries, like he said, like Japan, you can never become like a citizen really in Japan if you weren't born there. So it's essentially an ethno state. It's not that you can't, like, people can't go there and do stuff there, like, you know. But as far as they're concerned, like, you know, they want Japan to be a Japanese country.
Yeah, but in
Your
Japan,
belief.
is
you
it?
don't really have an option to rule here,
So,
do you?
so why is it that you call the Japanese bitches for doing the exact same thing?
I don't know much about Japan. What do they
But
do?
you said that they're bitches.
Well, what? No, I said if they don't believe people should be allowed in their country
Yeah.
who aren't of Japanese ethnicity,
Yes.
then yeah, I think they're bitches.
Why?
Because I think that is a small-minded, fear-mongering way to live life, and I think it's bitchy.
So then, on the one hand, you say that it's perfectly acceptable for Native Americans to do that, and they're not bitches.
No,
but on the other
no.
hand, it's not acceptable for the Japanese to do
No, I
that because
didn't.
it makes them bitches.
No, I didn't say that. I said I
So
believe
if
in
Native
property
Americans
rights.
want
just like
to-
I believe, I don't think it's any different than if I went and pitched a tent in your back.
Yeah, it's like if a group of people wants to have their own country, like, you know, let them have their own country. You know, you're not entitled to their fucking country. Like, let them do what the fuck they do.
Yard, and you said you have to leave because this is my property. I believe you have that right.
Oh,
I believe in
I'm
property.
sorry.
Yeah, it's the
That's
property
it. That's
rights,
it. So,
right?
and you said that doesn't make you a bitch.
So a country should be allowed to do that too.
Yeah, but it's not about ethnicity. It's about property rights.
Yeah, I know, but it
what
doesn't
laid
make you a
out-
bitch.
No, it doesn't make you a bitch.
So
no.
as long as the shareholder of the property, in this case the nation, universally agrees on what to do with that property, they're not bitches.
You could still be a bitch, but you might have the right
Well,
to do
you're
it.
gonna have to make up your mind. Either they are or they aren't.
Bitches don't have rights?
I don't even understand what that means. Can
If
you
you are-
can
if
you
you live in
answer
the
to what I just?
So now he's saying they're bitches, but they have the right to be a bitch. I mean, I can't necessarily disagree with the fact that, you know, you got a right to be a bitch if you're a bitch, but I mean, you calling them a bitch is you're saying it's something wrong with it.
Just
If
asking.
you live in the United States and you are a bitch, do you have the same rights as somebody who is not a bitch?
Not the same property rights, no.
If you both have property, you don't have the same
Well, if
property
you both
rights?
have property, then what would end up happening is if the collective, who had the joint ownership of said property,
No,
decided that all the bitches have to leave, from your view, that's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, if you have joint property,
Yeah, get all the bitches out of here.
for example, like I grew up Mormon.
I would never say that personally. If we're talking about women, that's usually what you're talking about. If we're talking about get rid of all the bitch ass niggas, yeah, get the bitch ass niggas out of here.
Collectively
There
owned.
are places in Utah that are collectively owned and in Florida by the Mormon Church, and if you go on that property, they can remove you.
Are they bitches?
Yes.
Because they remove you.
No, they're bitches because they're bitches. Mormons are bitches.
Okay, so not because they remove you.
No, they're bitches.
So
for
then
other reasons.
removing
Why are you hating on the Mormons, bro? Leave the Mormons alone.
people you don't want to collectively own property is actually not a bitch
They
thing.
ain't
to do.
done nothing to you.
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily a bitch thing to do.
Okay, so only if you remove them because you don't want them there. And
No, only if
it's-
you do. Only if you're removing them because of what they look like.
What if you're removing them because their culture is distinctly different than yours, and you think it'll cause social
Yeah,
cohesion issues?
I think you're kind of a bitch there.
Oh, you think you're kind of a bitch there too.
Yeah.
So you're all for property rights unless they're exercised for some group that you think you shouldn't be allowed to exercise
No,
their
you
property
still
rights against.
no, you still get the rights. You're just a bitch.
Oh, I see. You're just a bitch.
Yeah.
Based on what?
My feelings.
Oh, your feelings. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that we'll start making foreign policy.
Would they be bitches if they didn't want like a culture of pedophiles to come into their country and they're just like, oh, you know what, just get these motherfuckers out of it. We don't want these motherfuckers in our country. Would they be bitches if they said that?
Based on
Well,
your
I
come
mean,
on now.
obviously, I'm not using the actual word bitch, right? Like, I'm not using it as it actually.
I don't know what. I don't know. You
Yeah.
want to clarify
Yeah, this nigga mad because he lost.
words, will you?
No, not this one.
Or any?
No, I've clarified
No.
all the words you've asked for.
No,
His-
you really
his
haven't
name is
clarified that.
apparently
I was just
Dirty
trying to
Lib.
grant like the most ridiculous, over-the-top, good faith definition of them I could, and even then you fell short. Here,
I'm
you just
sorry.
said that it's perfectly acceptable for Native Americans to remove white families from land which was allocated to them,
Correct.
and you have no problem with that, even if they're just
Correct.
removing them because they're white.
Correct. It's their,
Yeah.
their property.
Yeah, exactly, and they're not bitches. However, if the
Just like-
Japanese
just like
do the
I
exact
do-
same thing, they are bitches, and if the Mormons do that, they're bitches. So really, what you're just saying is white people can't do it, and everybody else can.
Oh, you're saying so? If I think natives are doing it just because people are white, yeah, I think that's bitchy.
Okay, so
yeah.
they're not allowed to have their own culture.
They're allowed to have their own culture, and I'm allowed to call them a bitch.
Okay, so you think that they should be allowed to do this, but
He sound like the bitch to me. I'm just saying he's the one that sounds like a bitch to me.
they're
Sure.
still bitches for enforcing their own culture.
Correct.
What would make them bitches?
that they're afraid of somebody else's skin color.
Do you think that Native Americans
Who said that they were afraid of somebody's skin color? They just don't want you there, nigga. Like,
would have a really good claim to make that due to the fact of the rapid rate of dispatch against them by white people, that they could be culturally a force of non-cohesion to them?
Sure, maybe.
So if that's the case, how would that make them bitches to make?
Well, maybe in that case they probably wouldn't be a bitch.
Oh, okay. So then it is perfectly acceptable for Native Americans to remove white people from their lands just because they're white.
Well,
See how that works?
They can move. No, they can only remove them because it's their land. If it wasn't their land, they couldn't remove
No,
them.
I'm not
for any
asking
reason.
whether or not they can. We've already established that. But whether or not if they do, they're bitches. And you just got done saying on the one hand, if you remove them because they're white, they're bitches. And then the second I give you another
this nigga's getting cooked.
scenario because they're white. No,
That's not because they're white. It's because of perceived harm.
No, yeah, exactly. So the perceived harm based on them being white.
All right, so let's talk about.
Hang on, the perceived harm based on them being white, though, right?
No, not based on. Them being
Oh, then
white.
what's it based on?
Based on this country, which isn't all white people mistreating them.
So it's based on the lack of cultural cohesion that they would see from them being white, right?
No, I just said no to that.
Oh, no. So if they removed you because they thought that it would create a lack of cultural cohesion, how would they create the distinction between you and them? How would they create the distinction between you and them?
Repeat that again. I wasn't.
How would they create the distinction between you and them?
Me and who?
The Native American tribes. How they create the distinction between themselves and white people?
On the land?
Yes.
Well, they would be able to see that these people aren't with us.
Oh, so then it would be due to a distinct difference in culture?
No, I don't think it's cultural. Is it
then
cultural?
How would they know?
So
then it's racial?
In this current state, is it cultural for us?
So then it would be racial?
Would you mind if I got the question out real quick? In these current conditions, is it cultural that white people are going on and taking Native American lands?
No, but the opposite. The opposite is what I'm asking.
The opposite of
yeah.
what?
So if Native Americans came in and they said that we want to remove you because it would cause cultural issues with us
if it's
on
their
our
land?
ancestral land, hang on.
Yeah, they have property.
Yeah. I know that they can do it, but you said the thing that makes them not bitches is that they don't.
Yeah, like if you accept sexual degeneracy in your culture, and I know that that's what you and your people accept, I'm like, I don't want these motherfuckers in my country because they accept all this bullshit. Like, am I bitch? Like, he would say that because he's okay with sexual degeneracy. He's liberal.
You don't do it because these people are white. I'm just asking you, how would they distinguish between them and white people?
No, it's not saying that they can identify if you're white. Of course, you can identify if somebody's white. This is what I'm talking.
Yeah, we know, like, you know, sometimes we know, like, looking at your skin color, we can be like, oh yeah, I have an idea of what your culture is okay with. No.
About like this must be about immigration.
It is
we're
about
down to this. I'm sorry.
We're testing logic.
I'm sorry that I called people bitches.
Yeah, we're testing logic. I'm just asking, and I'm going to ask you again until you answer the question.
What
would be the thing that Native Americans would look at to say you're in other category than us?
What do you mean? Like physically, what would they look at?
Yeah, anything.
Well, if they looked out and you didn't happen to be white, they could also maybe identify that you're not with us. You don't have to be white, right?
Great. So how would they identify people who fucking aren't them, dude?
So listen. So they can remove anybody they want.
Yeah.
And if they do it strictly because of somebody's skin color, I would say that's a bitch move.
Yeah. How would they identify that they're in the other category?
Probably with their eyes.
Yeah. And what would make them determine that?
Their eyes.
Well, why would it even be a bad thing if it was because of skin color? I mean, hey, like, I might not agree with it, but it's like, you're allowed to do what you want to. Like, he already said this. What makes you a bitch though? Like, maybe you just decided I don't want people with this skin color here. They tend to cause problems. What's wrong with that? I mean, like, look, they say that about niggas, but like, I can't necessarily be mad at them. Like, if they're correct, I can't be mad at them.
Eyes.
Yeah, and what would make with their eyes that they're perceiving would make them think that they're in the other category.
Well, if these were white people, then they would say those are white people. And if they're removing those people simply because they're white and not because they are invading their land, then I would have a problem with it.
Then you just contradicted yourself.
But if they're doing it because those people are there on their land where they have property rights, then yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so then
they just trying to maintain their social cohesion, bro.
From your perspective, cultural cohesion, right? If you want to remove people because of that, it's not a bitch move, just like if Japan does it. And the only way
it's still a bitch move.
Oh, it's still a bitch move. Yeah. Okay, I'm super confused about how all of this works.
I know.
I thought you just got done saying if they remove them specifically because they're white, right? Even though they're not a problem to the culture, that would be an issue, right?
Yeah, he said it was just about the skin color. If you're only doing it because of skin color, then you're a bitch.
Well, I don't think this is a social cohesion move. I think this is a property rights issue.
Well, I think that but why are they removing them from the property?
Because they're not allowed to be there. I don't know. Why are they
removing them? Well, that would be a social cohesion.
Yeah, why aren't they allowed to be there?
Issue, right?
Sure, but if the social cohesion is literally just you look different than me, then you're kind of a bitch.
Yeah, okay. So the idea here is that if the social cohesion is not that, but you just feel like it would be invasive on whatever your culture is, that's not bitch move, right?
If it's invasive on your culture?
Yeah, you feel like so then that wouldn't be a bitch move.
Well, this wouldn't even exist. This scenario
But it does exist.
No, it can't exist in the scenario you're laying out because regardless of where you are, if you are on their property, they have property rights to remove you, and they have every right to remove you.
Right?
But you and the small minority of people that agree with you don't have property rights for this country. Yeah. You have the same opportunity I have to make your case, and you guys, your case. Yeah, but I think that your case is not something that if we followed would make social cohesion better.
I don't know.
Because it's a massive minority view.
This is really funny because all you're saying here is that if it is the case that they don't have to remove white people, They don't have to because they hold the property rights. If they decide to enforce that due to cultural cohesion issues, you have no problem with that. It doesn't make them bitch made. However, somehow you have decided arbitrarily that if any other groups,
I don't know how many more
minority
times.
groups do
How many
this,
more times
they
do I
are
have to
bitch
say it's
made.
property rights? I don't know how many more times.
Yeah,
I
I
have to say.
understand, but
I don't care. I don't care what.
I understand
don't
property
care.
rights.
All right, all right,
What
all right.
makes you remove the people? What makes you remove the
know.
people?
I've never done it. I don't care about the philosophical.
Yeah, okay.
I want to wrap this up because they this is kind of off topic at this point, but I want to see if they have any closing arguments. Let's see.
The case. It can't be the case that money more good.
Oh,
All right,
we got in his
children.
feelings a little bit.
All right, we're at the 2-hour marker. Here's what we can
It's
do.
not
We can
feelings,
definitely-
it's just retarded, bro.
We can definitely pick up on the orthodoxy thing through open panel. However, many people have sent
Yeah.
super chats, and a lot of people are already asking for that link. So I'd like
There
to
we
kick
go.
off and move into open panel before we get too crazy. Andrew, would you like to
They
begin?
got
with
on
your
that
closing
side
thoughts?
tangent.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's really funny. This guy's kind of a contradiction machine. It was fun to do to him. But
He is a
I start
contradiction
every
machine.
debate, and anybody who does a modicum of research will understand that almost every debate that I do, if we have loaded terms, in this case, a loaded term being harm, right, or good, these are loaded terms. From his perspective, they would be subjective references, and from mine, objective. So I need to know exactly what he means by those terms as we go through the course of the debate. Why? Why is that so important? Well, because my opponent's entire argument here is that somehow if more money come into country, therefore good. Okay, that's fair.
That is literally his argument.
But when I give him a counterexample of why don't we just bring in slaves, we'll definitely make a lot more money, he says we shouldn't do that because bad. Do you see now why we need to know the difference between what is good and what is bad? It's because when we're talking about these specific issues, it's very important for us to have entailments about whether or not money itself is what's good, or GDP going up or down is what's good, or if there's other things that we should be focusing on. When I brought this point up, my opponent agreed. He said, yes, you're right. There's other contributing issues, including social factors. We started moving into social factors because
Yeah, I mean, Andrew basically won this debate immediately when he started digging into that because the guy couldn't even be honest about it.
he couldn't justify any of his social beliefs. When I brought up various hypotheticals, he instantly contradicted himself. He contradicted himself even most recently when I brought up the hypotheticals on Native Americans, how he would deal with that. He says, no, private property rights is what we're after. Okay, so then collectively, if I have the joint private property of most people, they agree with me, they want to remove immigrants, there's no problem with that. He says, no, there's no problem with it, but you're a bitch. Well, why are you a bitch? Well, because I just don't agree with it, because I don't like it. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah,
We're not getting,
so
you don't get
stupid.
anywhere with any of this stuff because these people refuse to actually commit to any of their positions. His committal to his position was this simple: money more good. But that can't be the case. It can't be the case that money more good, because if I bring in other examples of money more being bad, he has to concede, no, that's actually bad. So we have to look at all the contributing factors. Why
Yeah, and some things are more important than money.
I want to look at social cohesion, the various things which are entailed there. Now, I don't know why he demanded that we equivocate the entire debate, absolutely refused to give any of the metrics for the very terms he's using, but he said for some reason, if I granted even the economic argument, this must mean that I lose the debate, which had nothing to do with economics. It only had to do with whether or not deportations were good or harmful. That's it. Had nothing to do with money, had nothing to do with GDP, nothing. For some reason, he banks on the fact that if GDP go up, that good, regardless of externalities or external circumstances. The whole thing is fucking absurd, and it's because my debate interlocutor doesn't understand basic terms or basic philosophy. Not only does he not understand basic philosophy, but he doesn't even understand what we're talking about. He says I was debating around the prompt. I was the only buddy who was debating with the prompt. Literally, the prompt is it more harm or more gooder if we have immigration deportation? So what's the first thing I do? What do we mean here when we talk about harm? And what do we mean here when we talk about good? Why would that be so fucking important to a debate about if something has a lot more harm than it has good? Because my opponent wants to equivocate the entire time and say, well, I just mean different things by that. And then I'll switch my view to this if it's good. I'll switch my view to that. This is what's good. This is what's not good. He wants me to just grant his position that GDP more equals good, even though he's refuted the second we bring slavery into that. The second we do. You have to define your very terms so that this type of equivocation doesn't happen. I've pointed this out to the Crucible a million times.
He's pro-slave labor, though. It's like, a typical materialistic liberal,
Says I'm an ideologue, I'm a zealot, never demonstrated any of that. All he saw was a good faith interlocutor, but because they're such bad faith, these fucking progressives, they never want to commit to the very positions they agreed to debate. Rather, somehow this became a debate about GDP. How? Where the fuck was this a debate about GDP and immigration?
Literally.
Nowhere. It was never about GDP in relation to immigrants. It was about whether it was more harm than good. Learning what those terms are, how they affect what it is that we're discussing, that's the key end point. And I literally spent half of the debate just trying to get this fucking guy to understand. I just need to know what the fuck he's talking about when he uses the terms, and instead he says, no, I came here to give you numbers. Are my fucking numbers right? Who cares? I'll just grant your numbers. I'll grant that they're right. Where does that get us, though? That doesn't get us to more harm than good.
Bro literally said, I don't see much good. And he asked him what is good. And he's like, I don't know, because I don't think it's doing any good. So you don't know what you don't think it's doing. Like, it's like, what?
We don't even know what we mean by these terms. So anyway, super easy debate. I knew I'd win the outset because the guy's a fucking idiot. But now you guys know.
The flexibility that you have there to consistently jack yourself off and pat yourself on the back is pretty impressive, Andrew. Look, I grew up an ideologue. I grew up in a cult. And let me tell you about people that debate as ideologues. What they
I mean, to be fair, he won, so he gets to do that. I'm gonna see what this closing argument. Let's see, and just closing statement, whatever.
They have to do is they have to create a structure in which you are forced to debate in, because what it does is it allows them to take all of their shitty views and protect them with this absolute morality. That's how Andrew debates. Andrew wanted to have a debate about morality. I told every single person before this debate that I would bring stats, and Andrew would try and just define every word. I've seen him do it time and time again. And
I mean, like the debate prompt is technically like a moral claim. You're saying it's doing more harm than good. Even if you're trying to make it objective, like, and you say it's not moral, it's like, well, it's kind of hard to do that when you say good. Good is like almost inherently moral. Unless you like, qualify it with something. You give some kind of objective definition of what is good, but he couldn't do that.
everybody's opposition to Andrew that is a good debater is somebody who says, Andrew, I don't want to play this silly game with you. And that's why Andrew usually gets most of his clicks by taking people off the street, giving them some pizza, and bringing them in without any knowledge. It's a very Charlie Kirkian way. But let me just tell you this. Andrew will never give you a specific about anything. Andrew will never give you a policy prescription, because what Andrew and what this lucky band of incels want to do is take Christian nationalism and rule over all of you. That's what they want. So they want to have a debate where they can take their warped view and their racist views and their bigoted views and their misogynistic views, and they want to position them in a way that theirs don't look crazy. And that's all Andrew wanted to do here. Andrew doesn't give a goddamn about this country. Andrew doesn't give a goddamn about what's best for this country. Andrew doesn't want democracy. Andrew wants Christian nationalism, the very thing we fled from. The whole reason we have a fucking country is because we got away from shit like this, where the husband submits to the wife and women don't get to vote, and you have to you can't have an abortion, and the church
country wasn't
everything.
founded.
The reason Andrew wants to debate like this is because he doesn't have anything of substance to say. If Andrew was running for political office, he would be laughed off of every stage because he says fucking nothing. He comes on here to try and win a debate with semantics, and that's fine. He's really fucking good at it. Really fucking good at it. That's why he has 200,000 followers. But it's also why the growth is always going to be limited. He's always going to hold a minority position, because human beings are human. And that's why the people that listen to you, Andrew, that come to me, that are in my DMs, they're desperate to have a conversation about anything other than the fucking debate tactics that you set up here. Yeah, this was a silly debate. You refuse to engage on any numbers. You keep reducing my position to GDP. I gave you a million different numbers, and you focused on GDP because the reality.
Like, to be fair, like, so Andrew's debate tactic was solid because you wanted to say that just having positive numbers in the economy meant that deportations are bad, or that they're more bad than good. But you weren't taking into account the fact that there are so many other things that go into the conversation of deportation. So, like, it's not just about the economy. You tried to make it solely about the economy, and he correctly pointed out that it's not just about the economy. Even if I were to grant all of the numbers you said, that's why they didn't get in it. Even if he had evidence for those numbers, he just like, let's just grant the numbers. Is there anything else that could be negatively affected that could make it the opposite? And he wasn't really able to engage with this idea because he thinks it's just as long as your fucking GDP goes up, then it's good, or then it's good. Yeah. He didn't even actually really say that, though. What he really tried to say was that because it's a net negative on the GDP, that's from his viewpoint, because it's a negative on the GDP, then it's causing more harm than good. But he actually never really told us what he thinks good is. Now, obviously, good is the opposite of that, but he couldn't be honest about that. And he couldn't actually demonstrate it much either, because Andrew never accepted that premise to begin with. Like, he wanted to know what he meant by good, and he really couldn't tell him what he meant by good because he knew that would be torn apart, because there's more to it than just money.
Reality is you wanted to frame this as a moral debate, and I wouldn't go there with you, and it's fine. I'm glad that you have your morals from your Sky Daddy that are
see, he just admitted it. Like, he wasn't trying to make it a moral debate. He was trying to make it a well-rounded debate, like something about more than just money. Like, actually talk about all of the different things that immigration or illegal immigration affects besides just the economy. And they got into it for a little bit, like the social cohesion part of it, but they didn't get into anything else.
Completely made up and completely subjective, and you base your whole life around it. But I don't think that you're convincing to average, everyday people, which is who I want to speak to.
Shots fired. All right, fair enough, gentlemen.
Yeah, but this was like a false premise, equivocation fallacies, a lot of red herrings in there. But Andrew correctly pointed it out. He tried to equivocate the entire debate. He tried to act as if just because there's like some economic downside, that it's just automatically just completely negative. and that there's nothing else that can make it more good than bad. Like, even if we were to grant that, like, the economics being negative is bad, doesn't mean that there's nothing else that's good, or that there isn't more good in some other area.
This is fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do is everybody staying for the open panel when we go into that?
But yeah, we're not gonna look at any of the open panel. I wanted to wrap this up quick, so I'm gonna get out of here. The next thing I want to do is I actually want to do like a live, like, listening party for the Clips album. Um, I was gonna do that with the homies though, so I'm trying to figure out when they have time to do it. Because I don't think they even really listen to the Clips like that, but I wanted to do that. We're probably gonna do it on the Nimbo page too. We'll see if we can get that out. We'll try to get it out there this weekend, and then we'll probably have might have another debate in the server that I might stream. We'll see. But for now, I'll have to bid you beautiful people adieu. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back with another debate sometime soon and another logical analysis. But for now, peace out.